Very much so, Frank Lowy. And now we will hear from the head of the INSS, the previous head of intelligence, General Tamir Hayman. Hello, good morning. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much, Sir Frank, for the warm words he had to say, very accurate. I want to start by thanking other people who assisted us in creating this conference, apart from Frank, who also assisted, of course, also friends of the INSS, Gila Gmon, Orit Alster, Avraham Kadar. It was very important to these people to hear about this issue. They feel very strongly about it. And of course, thank you to Yedioth Ahronoth and to all of you who came here to listen. I actually had something written down that was pretty well organized to tell you, but after yesterday, it seems out of place to now read something to you, that is orderly. And if I may to open by speaking to you in a more informal way. Because what we saw yesterday, these two different realities, it just shook me. Some of you know that I came from the tanks battalion, and the greatest nightmare of a tank, nightmare you could have is a burning tank without being able to leave it. And yesterday, for many hours, while this tank was burning in Jabalia, a parallel universe existed that had to do about the greatest way to manipulate the world in order to exempt people, a great part of the population, from ever being in that situation. Where in one Israeli society, these two things can occur in the same time. It creates a bit of a different context to what we're about to talk about today. When Frank came to me about 3-4 months ago, and you've heard about his past, and he said, we must do something. This Israeli society is falling apart, and we must wake up. You must cry out loud. I didn't imagine at that point, at that moment, that this day will be so concrete, that we will be here convening today the most fatal days to do with the issue we are about to talk about today. So what is the issue? In fact, the problem is not something new. What new is the context. Now, we as INSS, we deal with strategies, we deal with policies, and with the policy, the problem, but the context is, the context is, because if you do not understand the context, you do not fully understand the problem. If you don't understand the problem, there's no chance that you could create any kind of policy or strategy to solve this problem. So what is the problem? The problem is old. It's this unfairness that is basic for this part of the Israeli society who created Israel as this great thing we are so proud about, that we are so moved into tears when we see its achievements, when medicine, in high-tech, in economics, a society that is truly thriving, one of the leading societies in the Western world, and this small portion of people is allowing and enabling this reality where another portion of this state is being separated when it comes to the burden of security, and by pushing themselves outside of question, they are in fact increasing the burden for the other part of the population that is creating all these great things, and this vicious cycle, unfairness that is becoming stronger and stronger. But this is nothing new. It always was like that. What is now new is the context of the longest war in the history of Israel that has still not even achieved its goals. And in 3 different ways, this context creates something. It's a change. One, it moved on from being a principled discussion about burden and philosophy. It became into a discussion of death and blood and bereavement that is hovering over all of the homes in service in Israel. It's not a theoretical question. It's something that we meet every morning carrying this burden. And the second point, those reservists that this very long war is affecting are not discussing the question of the burden and equality because of the principal question, but rather their home lives, my relationships with my wife, what will happen with my children, what will happen with my nuclear family, with my job that I might lose. And the fact that other people are not taking part is just making this problem even greater. It's not a principled question of state science. It's a question of my own home. And the third thing is that I think that the security conception of Israel has changed. It wasn't written, it won't be written, but I think that it has become from something rare and into something that is routine. And the principle of David Ben-Gurion, who claimed that the state is being built during the quiet wars, is now something that wants to throw out of itself this horrible thing, that this is the basis of the conception, and this preferential aspect that is very clear is creating a reality that, in order to make into reality, whether it's true or not, which is not the question now, we need a great big army, not when it comes to the scope of what Ben-Gurion thought about when he designed this conception. So what can we do? First of all, we can't ruin. Israel has a conscription law. It is a good conscription law. We don't need to regulate it. It's just not being applied, but we can't ignore the fact it's not applied. There's probably some insight, some problem that is stopping us from applying it. So not ruin it by creating a law that says that all the Haredi men must go to be conscribed and not leave, because if they leave, they immediately leave the army and not come back. And what we do if we do that is that we will make sure that everybody is always sitting in their yeshivas all the time, and they are not going to work if they are not going to become members of the IDF. The thing we can't do is exempt. If we exempt and we give blanket exemption, the basic problems of fairness in this context will become a bombshell. It's not something that will be discussed in air-conditioned centers such as this. So what can we do? I love simplicity. In complicated matters, and when it comes to fairness, very simple rules. And not 40 different clauses where you can't understand what goes and what doesn't work. Simplicity is the true genius of complicated things. So let's now send everybody conscription bills. All of the people of Israel, let's bring all of them to the conscription center. And if they don't show up, we need to take care of that. We will bring them. Then how do we enlist them? How many do we enlist? Into what kind of track? We will do it the way the IDF knows. Even today, we have unique tracks. We have people who are exempted. The rules are clear and are applied to everyone by the IDF. Why not expand that for everyone? It doesn't mean that everybody will be enlisted or go to the same service track. It doesn't mean anything. It means one thing. The rule is simple, it's fair, and it has to do with all of the people of Israel, and the IDF is the one to make the decisions according to very simple rules that are applied to everyone, the way it is done today. So I do know that what I just said has a lot of loopholes, and it is a lot more complicated in reality than this simple phrase that I just stated. But this complexity needs to be discussed, not the essential question. This complexity, there we don't keep this discussion. So what are we going to do today? Today we will try to learn and to listen and to hold a professional rather than political discussion. There are enough political platforms in Israel who are using this so very important topic in the favor of political needs. As legitimate as it is in the democratic state, there are enough platforms. And this is not this one, the INSS platform. We want to take an issue and professionally discuss it with tools that are as close as could be to scientific objective tools. Some people here are not researchers, but we are trying to give it some aroma that is more professional, and I would like to attack this issue from all different angles, and maybe by the end of this critical day, while we are still here, somewhere else, people are trying to manipulate the law, and we might be able to have a very clear, professional, transparent voice that is ethical and that is trying to sustain Israel the way that its founders thought. Thank you so much for coming here, and I wish us all a very successful day.